In this video, which is the first of a two-part video, we're going to look at how to create a request file for an SSL certificate. The second part of the video will be handling the reply. So here we've got my website, fabulously designed as it is, and it's currently just using a HTTP connection. I would like to have a secure version of this site. Now, at the moment, if I were to try to go to the secure version of this site, we would get an error because no such thing exists. So what I need to do is to start by creating a certificate request, which I will then send through to my requesting authority. They will reply, once I've paid the money, in due course with a certificate response, which we can then add to the server. So let's start by creating the thing. We'll go back into IIS, and here's the website for which I want to create the secure certificate. But what I actually need to do is go into the root node here for the server, and I'm looking in here for the certificates. There we are. So there's a thing called server certificates. If we go into there, see, we don't really have any certificates at the moment, but we want to create a certificate request over here on the right. Now we get prompted with the items that we need the certificate to contain. Now the common name is going to be the URL of the site that we are looking to secure. In normal terms, a standard certificate applies to a single domain. So if you're going to use www.yourdomain, then put that in here. If you're going to interchange between www and just yourdomain.com, then you may well need two certificates. It depends on how you set it up. You're generally best, also for the sake of SEO, you're generally best to use one domain name, be that with or without the www, doesn't matter, but whichever one you choose to use is what needs to go into the common name. For the sake of convenience, we are going to use ours without the www. Now you can buy wildcard certificates, and in which case you would do *domain name, but they're more expensive. There's a blog post on the blog site that explains SSLs in full detail. But got to make sure we get this one right because we can't change it once it's been done. So the organization is the name of the company or person requesting the certificate and to who it was bound. The organizational unit is the department within that company. The locality is where you are based, and the state is fairly obvious. And in the country or region, this is the ISO code, so in our case AU is Australia. We'll go next. Now your certificate provider will tell you what the best settings for these are, but for the most part the standard provider is absolutely fine, but your bit length must be 2048. Okay, so we go next, and it's going to say where would you like to store the request file. So if we create a little folder in here called SSL, and we'll call this Now you'll notice that I've named this .com.au.2012.txt, and the reason for that is you will need to renew your certificate, and you'll need to do it once a year generally, and you want to make a nice easy way of determining which request goes with which certificate. So just by habit we tend to put the year in the file names, and we will use that notation throughout. When you come to part 2 of the video, it becomes a little bit more important to be able to discern between requests, so it's good to follow this sort of general principle. So there we are. So we'll create that file now. It takes almost no time at all. And if we were to go look at this file that we've just created, here it is, we'll see that we've got our certificate request. Now when we send this certificate to the issuing authority, you need absolutely everything, the begin certificate part and the end certificate part. Now when you send this certificate, they're going to email back to a known email address which has to approve the request. So you send it to the authority, they charge you money and all that sort of stuff, but before they will issue the certificate they have to validate that a known email address from the domain has approved that this request be made. Now there are only sort of half a dozen different email addresses that this can come to. I'm not going to list them all here, you can look them up in the blog post that I mentioned earlier on, but you should at least have admin at your domain name so that you can receive what's called the fulfillment confirmation. Okay, so we're now going to send this file off to our issuing authority, go through all the necessary steps that you'll go through, and we will get back a certificate in due course, which is where we'll pick up part 2 of the video in just a little while. Okay.